Hey YouTube, it's Annabelle. So today I'm doing videos on some breastfeeding topics that I got some questions on, and I'm just sharing what I've learned and how I kind of do things. And my little disclosure on all of these videos is, of course, talk to your doctor, talk to nurses, and especially talk to a lactation consultant about any questions that you have with nursing and things like that. This video is going to be on how I have established a pumping schedule and kind of how I do things and how I learned that works best. Okay, so when establishing a pump schedule, you kind of have to look at how often your baby is eating. And now this is whether you are starting right off as a newborn, when your baby is a newborn, if you are going to pump. And this is also if you are nursing and then transitioning to pumping. Now, I have done both exclusive nursing and exclusive pumping, and we exclusively nursed right in the beginning with my daughter, and then we exclusively pumped after that. And with my son, we have exclusively nursed for the first month of his life, and now we are pumping during the day, and he is nursing at night, and then if he wakes up overnight. So that is kind of how our situation looks like now. So if you're going to start right away pumping as a newborn, you want to pump every 2 to 3 hours because a baby naturally eats every 2 to 3 hours that early. If you are starting to pump later or continuing to pump, then you can pump every 3 to 4 hours because that's usually when babies eat when they're just a little bit older. Okay, so you want to start pumping more often at first until you establish a supply. And once you've established that supply, then you can pump less often and still get the same amount of milk in your pumping sessions. And once you've established that supply and that routine and schedule with pumping, then you can increase your supply or decrease your supply depending on your family's needs and your baby's needs. So a couple reasons why you'd want to increase your supply is because baby needs more to eat. Another reason would be that you want to build up a freezer stash for a just-in-case kind of thing. Reasons why you'd want to decrease your supply is you have enough in your freezer and don't need any more, or you're going to be stopping pumping. Or baby is getting too much and again you have too much in your freezer. Okay, so once you have kind of figured out how your schedule is, you can fit your pumping into that schedule. So how we did it with my daughter was before I started work, so for the first 6 weeks of her life, I pumped every 3 hours, and then it worked better for our schedule when I started back at work to pump every 4 hours. So how that schedule looked like when I started work, I would pump right before work in the morning, I would pump on my lunch break, I would pump right after work, I would pump in the evening, I would pump late at night, and then I would pump in the middle of the night, and then it would start all over again. Now the best way to start a supply and establish a good supply is to pump 24/7 and in the hour increments, and it is a good thing also to pump at regular intervals. That way the supply and demand doesn't get kind of like confused a little bit. So with my son, we are right now, since we have just started this last week with pumping during the day and nursing at night and overnight, I am pumping in the day every 3 hours because that is what he is eating at, like that's his like natural schedule that he is eating at. He's eating at every 3 hours. And so right now he is eating absolutely everything that I pump. So I am trying to get my supply increased right now, and I would like to have a small freezer stash this time. With my daughter, I was so afraid that I wouldn't have enough milk for her, so I did consistent pumping 24/7 for quite some time until we established a huge freezer stash. Our freezer was full, our deep freeze was full, we had other people's deep freezes full, and our daycare's deep freeze was full of our milk. And so once we ran out of room, we decided that it was time to stop. So since we didn't have any room, we stopped pumping with her, and I slowly decreased my supply by pumping less often and for shorter amount of times. And if you want to increase your supply, the best way I found out that I'm doing right now with my son is I am pumping more often, and I'm pumping for longer periods of time. Is how I'm getting that stash or that established. Okay, so with my son, there is no end in sight right now for pumping. I do just want to get about a week's worth in our freezer, so I'm going to work on that to get there, and then I want to just produce the amount that he is going to eat each day. And babies generally eat around 24 ounces of milk per day. So with my daughter in pumping, for every day that I pumped for an additional day, or I got an additional day's worth of milk to put in our freezer. So I was very concerned about having that supply and that stash in our freezer. So I established that very quickly, and then we ran out of room. This time I am more relaxed about pumping and having a supply. I know how my body works, how I was talking about increasing and decreasing your milk supply. So this time around, I just want to produce what he is going to eat on a day-to-day basis. Again, having that about a week's worth in our freezer, just in case something would happen, so that way we have enough milk if I have another day trip, or if I have a weekend getaway with the girls that I have planned in a couple months, and just different things like that. So it all depends on your situation and your schedule. If it works to pump every 5 hours, and you're not going to have any issues with like plugged ducts or like mastitis or anything like that, whatever suits your body, I think is how you need to establish your pump schedule. And again, just knowing how to increase or decrease your supply depending on your situation and how much your baby is eating. So I know that is a lot of stuff. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Otherwise, I will talk to you all later. Bye guys.